There's no business in the world that asks you to stab your friends in the back like politics. I absolutely refuse to do it to Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is my friend, and she did nothing wrong. She said nothing wrong, and I'm absolutely not going to throw her under the bus.
What it is that Satan's controlling the church.
It's odd, there's never any evidence shown for a plane in the Pentagon. But anyways, I'm not going to dive into the 9/11 conspiracy.
How do you get avid gun owners and people that support the Second Amendment to give up their guns? Maybe you accomplish that by performing a mass shooting into a crowd.
And yes, I could dive into Kennedy getting killed in the plane crash, because isn't it interesting that he had announced he was going to run for Senate just before he died in a mysterious plane crash?
Is the type of corruption we're going to see come out, is it going to be satanic worship that possibly all these people are involved in?
She said nothing wrong.
All right. First of all, I don't even. What do you make of those sound bites? That was a new ad from Democratic Ohio Senate candidate Tim Ryan comparing his Republican opponent J.D. Vance to Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. But I'm so stuck on her comments.
Well, by the way, if you weren't keeping a score at home, Willie, she talked about our Lemire, a 9/11 conspiracy. Where she's a truther, JFK Jr. conspiracy. Let's see, what was the other conspiracy? Shooting, that the government did a mass shooting to push gun control.
Proposed one.
This is just absolute insanity. It goes back to what I've been saying all along. Democrats shouldn't overthink this. This is a Republican Party who is too dangerous, too crazy, too radical to run either the House or the Senate. And you can't say these are backbenchers, because these are the very people that Kevin McCarthy says he's going to make even more powerful when Republicans take control. And now you have a senator from a candidate from the state of Ohio saying she said nothing wrong, she's done nothing wrong. J.D. Vance saying she said nothing wrong. So J.D. Vance, by extension, I guess,
by all that?
He does actually stand by the fact that 9/11 was an inside job. It was a conspiracy theory that these mass shootings are done by the government to push gun control, and that JFK Jr.'s plane crash was also like that he was murdered because he was going to run for the Senate. And he says she's done nothing wrong. She said nothing wrong. There's about 1,000 other things out there that would be even more offensive to Ohio voters. So it just shows you again, this is not just contained in the backbench of the House. This is infecting the entire party.
Yeah, we've all had a little bit of a laugh at Marjorie Taylor Greene's Jewish space laser conspiracy theories, but the stuff she spouted there, that stuff's dangerous. Saying that government is conducting a false flag operation, killing its own citizens, a mass shooting, or pretending they're crisis actors, depending which way you want to take that conspiracy theory, in order to seize people's guns. That's not true. Saying that the son of a U.S. president was murdered to prevent from running for office, that's not true either, although we should note that the other part of the QAnon conspiracy theory is that JFK Jr. is actually still alive and now, oddly, a Trumpist Republican. But what we're seeing here is this ad from Tim Ryan may be a preview of what we hear a lot from Democrats in the months ahead. Elevating these Republican voices who, as you say, Joe, are not backbenchers. They're people of prominence. They're fundraising machines. They're coveted surrogates. They're people who Donald Trump supports. And they are folks that Kevin McCarthy has said, hey, they will have loud, important, key voices in the Republican House if I'm made Speaker. So I think we should expect to hear a lot from Democrats making this same argument, saying, hey, you want to vote Republican? These are the Republicans you're getting, the party of the crazy.
Let's look closer at what might happen this fall in the midterm elections as we bring in MSNBC political analyst Elise Jordan. Elise, your focus groups that we showed yesterday out of the state of Georgia started a lot of discussion around the table, online afterward as well. And I understand you've got more for us. We've been talking about that governor's race between David Perdue and the incumbent Brian Kemp, where Brian Kemp, at least in the Fox poll, has a 32-point lead. What did the voters tell you?
Yeah, Willie, I'm so excited that you and Joe and Mika wanted to do this and go forward, because right now we're so well timed. We get to hear from Georgia primary Republican voters right on the eve of the Georgia election. And I want to point out that, when Joe and Mika and I first discussed this, we talked about doing a group of mainstream Republicans. So these are mainstream Republican voters. They aren't the most supportive of Marjorie Taylor Greene. They aren't getting their news from InfoWars. I just want to point that out for context as we watch. And so you'll see what kind of grade they give Brian Kemp, and then how they respond to an ad from David Perdue, or rather a comment from David Perdue that proved influential. And this group was mixed when coming into the group, and some were supporters of Brian Kemp and some were supporters of David Perdue. So let's watch what they had to say. Well, you know who does have a strong opinion on Brian Kemp? Donald Trump. Yes. He released this statement just this past week, and as you know, he's very much made getting David Perdue over the finish line in this primary his goal. He calls him the worst election integrity governor in the country. And what do you make of Donald Trump's statement, and does that influence who you are going to vote for in the primary?
I think he's just got his feelings hurt that people didn't respond. Kemp didn't respond to his desk banging to check out the votes. Brian Kemp, I know Trump doesn't like him. He's got a big problem with him, but he's done a fine job. Trump, I mean, Kemp, Perdue, is there a difference? Except Trump likes one and doesn't like the other?
All because he got his feelings hurt.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
Let's have a show of hands. Who's going to probably vote in the primary?
Oh, yeah.
And so everyone's going to vote in the upcoming primary. Who is going to vote for Brian Kemp?
I'm undecided.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm undecided, too.
Is anyone definitely going to vote for David Perdue?
I'm more leaning that way.
Why are you leaning that way?
Because Perdue is a true businessman, and we need somebody who knows how to run a business. Then I think if you have that ability, you can run a state, because a state is a business.
I think whoever it is they need to act quickly. They don't need to sit back and wait, like waiting for him to drop the gas taxes for the state of Georgia. That should have happened a lot sooner than it did. Yes. We need to be more active.
He's trying to be, it seems like he's trying to be a little bit more moderate so he can, he doesn't get all those far, maybe some of the left will kind of scoop in with him. I
just
don't think he's strong enough.
I thought Brian Kemp was a very strong conservative. Do you not?
I do. He's definitely conservative, but I feel like he's just trying to not make waves. And what we need is someone to make waves, make change.
Well, let's hear from David Perdue now.
When that ruling comes down, if I were governor, I would call in the legislature under special session and ask them to ban abortions in Georgia.
Does that make you more likely to support David Perdue for governor in the primary?
No.
Less.
Less.
Yeah, less. Why does it make you less likely?
My body, my choice, not the government's.
But Marty, you're very pro-life, so why does that make you less likely?
It's like I tell every lady I speak with about this topic, is that women get this much of a voice on the topic, men should have this much voice on the topic. And I think reasonable limits make sense. Viable outside the womb at 20 weeks, I think. You got to answer to the guy upstairs if it happens after that. And a hard no abortions at all is not a position I would take.
So, would anyone vote for Stacey Abrams over David Perdue? Oh, goodness, no.
Never.
Never.
Well, if you have Hollywood coming back down and going door to door, that's like they did last time. I mean, that was shameful, but anyway.
All right, so Elise, I've got to say,
These are great.
What we heard after yesterday, or a lot of Democrats who were so shocked, I mean, their hair fell out. Like, they were like, oh my God, these people are ultra MAGA and they're proud of it. what we heard today, I thought, was remarkable, especially on the abortion issue, because I talked to somebody after I heard that Herschel Walker said, no exception if a 13-year-old girl is raped by a member of her family. No exception for rape or incest. We hear that out of like some of the most powerful governors in America. We're seeing this no abortion after fertilization in Louisiana. And yet, that was the one moment where everything just kind of stopped. It reminds me of the Heilman-Halpern focus group in 2016.
New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire, when somebody said, he's one of us.
He's our guy.
Talking about Trump. He's one of us. He understands us. Like, oh, my God. This was a similar moment where everything just stops when you have pro-life people, you have women who, again, consider themselves, quote, ultra MAGA, saying, my body, my choice. And the man wisely saying, you know what? Why don't we step out of the way and let the women take care of it and, answer upstairs if it's after 20 weeks. I'm sure that's shocking to a lot of MAGA Republican politicians.
Well, that's the thing, Joe, and you've spoken about this a lot, how the country pretty much is in the same place on abortion. It's reflected in the polling. They do not want third trimester abortions. But there's more nuance. On the right, you hear from people who describe themselves as pro-life, and yet they want a rape exception. They want an incest exception. There are certain exceptions that they're okay with, and they don't want the government interfering. And then on the left, you have politicians who say that anything other than total abortion freedom and any abortion anytime at any point during the birth process is okay, and that's just not really where the majority of the country is.
No, it's really not, Elise. I mean, you look at polling on abortion, it's all over the place. People may identify themselves as pro-life, but still support Roe, consider themselves pro-choice, but still want a ban after 20 weeks. You look at most polls, and most polls show, just like you said, overwhelming support for abortion rights through 20 weeks. Republicans, ultra MAGA Republicans, these governors, they may not want to admit that, but Democrats don't want to admit as well. Most Democrats elected don't want to admit as well that after 20 weeks, most Americans are going, no, that is sort of the stopping point. And we actually heard that among some very, again, people that are proud to be called ultra MAGA Republicans. Let's now quickly look at the Senate race and what we learned from your focus group.
Okay. If Herschel Walker is going up against Raphael Warnock, how are you going to vote?
Wow, that's tough because of what he's come out here lately saying with, what is it, playing Russian roulette or something and knowingly putting a gun to his head because of his mental stability. That's tough to swallow. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tricky one. It really is.
I have no problem with him. Just about any conservative is better than just about any communist Democrat.
I feel that way,
Yes.
too.
Herschel Walker is up against Raphael Warnock. Would anyone consider voting for Herschel Walker?
Why? Because he's Herschel Walker? He's a football player? He's a famous football player?
What do you think of him? Tell me what you think about him.
No, nothing about him. He's a famous football player.
That's it.
That's literally all he is. He doesn't go to debates. They say he's a bad speaker. So what's his agenda? We know nothing.
I mean, he fits in because he doesn't. I haven't heard any policy-driven, and I haven't heard him advocating any positions of policy.
Raphael Warnock. How do you gauge his performance?
What has he done?
Exactly.
I've not heard anything that he's accomplished.
Exactly.
Now he's on TV spouting off stuff, and I still don't know what he's done.
I said false preacher.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I said.
What's a false preacher?
Well, he's a preacher at Martin Luther King's church. But he has a history of battery against his wife. He has a lot of other things in his closet that have come out in the past, 2 to 4 years.
But see, on the same side, though, so does Herschel. Herschel has battery charges as well. Or I think it was battery, right? With his first wife.
He has some allegations.
Yeah, allegations, too. So that's what I'm saying. I understand what you're saying. I agree. To me, when you say false false preacher. To me, it's almost like, okay, I'm legally able to steal now because I don't have to pay state taxes because I'm now part of a church.
Right.
So to me, it's just all
That
about
too.
it's all about money.
Right.
Well, he
A little
also
bit.
wants to use Martin Luther King, and
Yeah.
oh God, I'm so sick and tired. I mean, nothing against Martin Luther King,
Right.
but it's always just it feels like it's race baiting. It's like I'm going to say it's Martin Luther King, and the black folks are going to listen
Right.
to me now.
Right.
It's an authentication stamp.
Yes.
So, but I mean, he's a seismic figure in American history. Republicans talk about Ronald Reagan a lot. So is that?
And I didn't agree with everything Ronald Reagan did either.
I feel like his commercials, he's trying to make him seem trustable when he keeps saying, oh, I used to be, I'm a preacher. And I think that he's trying to get people to be, believe that he's honest. And that's enough to get him through. And he's not really, he's using that preacher too strongly. Title.
See, he's not even Reverend. Why do you have to do it, Reverend? Just say I'm Raphael Warnock. I'm running for U.S. Senate.
I think he's using that to get people
I know, that's
to
what I'm
trust
saying,
him.
though. He's,
Yeah,
it's-
correct. That's what he's doing, selling himself. How about Raphael Warnock, your senator?
Yeah, I mean, he's not been senator long. His focus is on Medicare, getting costs down for diet, for insulin and so forth, affordable drugs, which is that's another big thing. It's crazy that you go over to Canada and insulin is $12. You come over here, it's like $100. It's insane. Making medicine affordable to those who are on fixed incomes. I think he's, again, a grassroots person. He comes from, I believe, Savannah, Georgia, meager beginnings, and so he understands. And so he's really focusing on the community that a lot of us don't, our elderly. They're important. We need to keep them healthy. We need to keep them going, and that seems to be what a lot of his focus is.
Ooh, where to begin there, Elise? There is a lot in there. First of all, we should say that Senator Warnock is the senior pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, one of the most famed churches in the country, of course, where Martin Luther King preached. And also the allegation from his wife was not borne out, that he drove over her foot with a car. So to sort of make that parallel with what Herschel Walker has admitted in some cases and been accused of in others is a little bit of false equivalency there. But
yes, and
where do you want to
Raphael
begin
Warnock
as you
also
look
has
at that?
a PhD from the seminary, so
Yeah.
he is indeed a real preacher. This one is going to be really fascinating to watch unfold, just because you heard from the Republicans and the Democrats that they have concern over Herschel Walker's mental fitness. And those allegations against Herschel Walker from his ex-wife are incredibly intense and tied into what Herschel Walker has called his dissociative multiple personalities, and she accused him of holding a razor and a gun to her. And so those are pretty heavy, dark allegations that the voters aren't that aware of, but it's looming in the corridors, and they weren't feeling that content with his answers so far on his mental fitness.
Reverend Al, I thought it was fascinating. Again, something we talked about before we saw this focus group. Republicans, they have an opinion on Senator Warnock, and it's not a positive opinion. Then you go to the Democrats, and they're like,
They don't know
he hasn't
well
been in there
Yeah.
too long. And again, it's just what we were talking about before. The ultra MAGA Republicans know exactly what they want to do. Democrats, especially black Democrats, still ambivalent.
I think that, again, I keep saying you have to turn people on to turn them out. The key in Georgia and elsewhere is going to be turnout. And as I look at the focus group that I think she did a good job in, The turnout thing is what is bothering me about the Democrats. I'm hearing some defense and in some case, at least one case, some substance in terms of the defense of Senator Warnock. But I'm not hearing the enthusiasm. I'm not hearing the I'm ready to go out there and fight. And the MAGA crowd is ready to go out there and fight. They're very definitive. And I think that is the problem. Rather than get angry about it, rather than tweet about it, we need to understand, unless you go to the ground and give them an argument on why the election means something for them, not you. Too many people that are running now on the Democratic side, in my view, and I've challenged them on that as one that's among them, is you're running selling your career rather than the voter's life. They're interested in their life, not your career.
Reverend Al, thank you very much. Elise Jordan, well
great.
done. We're going to have more from you, from the voters, on Monday on Donald Trump, on January 6th attack on the Capitol, and some comments about from the Democrats about Vice President Kamala Harris
Some
as well.
surprising comments.
Coming up this